This is the application we will be building. So it's called the MovieDB. So if you look at it, so the first state is loading. So when the data is loading, we are able to see a loader. And if you scroll around, you're able to see popular movies within the week or maybe the day. So if you look at some of them, so for example, if we get to check on some of them on the web browser, so if you get, so you see we have the War, we have the Hoppers. These are some of the movies. Yeah, the Hoppers, we have the War. Some of the movies appearing on the application are still the same movies that are also popular on the web. So this means we are hitting the right API and fetching the right data. So let's get into it. So the first thing I would want you to do is to go to your browser, go to the movie, .org, the moviedb.org. So this link is already on the description below. So you will go to your profile, then go to your profile settings, and then go under API. You will be able to find your API key. So just click on the API and retrieve your API key and save it somewhere else. I will show you where we will be using the API key. Now, we will create a new package given that we already have this. So I'm just going to create a new package, just new package, call it the movie API. Now, the first thing we'd want to do, so don't mind about these other packages. So for the post, we have the post API and then the post API one. So you can also check them out, but a video is coming out on that topic. But still, again, it's on the API integration. So the first thing you'd want to do before even creating your package is configuring your dependencies. Now, if you go to your Gradle, so I have already added these dependencies. So we do have Ktor. So this will be our network client that we will be able to communicate between our application and the server. So we want to send data. So remember, data has to be deserialized and serialized when it's moving between your application and the server. So we need a framework. We need Ktor to help us do that. So that's why we do have Ktor here. So for navigation, we will be using type-safe navigation, where we will also be using serialization. So that's why we have this API here. And then we do have Coin for our dependency injection. So we will be using it in our dependency injection. Serialization, so Kotlin X again for serialization. And then we will be fetching images from the website. So using the URL. So we will need this HTTP coil network, and also this one, coil 3. So these two will help us fetch those images from the internet. Now, for serialization, remember to include it in your plugin. So if you go to your Gradle and your library versions, so just also cross-check that you have them here. You have Ktor here, where everything needed for Ktor, everything needed for navigation, everything needed for dependency injection, that's coin. Also make sure that you've declared your serialization here. So you can also just copy this. So remember, this course is about API integration and not about Gradle and syncing of your project. So you can go to GitHub, Teams Owen. So I will also include that. I have included the link here to the GitHub to just pick the dependency. So you can copy that, and then we can start now doing the API integrations. You can also just cross-check your other the external Gradle. Just make sure you have these 3 Gradles. So first thing is to check the internal one, where you get to specify all this. The second one will be checking the library versions, and then you can also just cross-check also your other Gradle file. So up to this, I think everything's okay and set. So we can start now writing our code. Now let me explain something small here. So in our in the modern Android architecture pattern, so we do have view model and the UI. And remember, state flows from, so this will be our state. So state flows from app, that is from our view model to the UI. So we do have the view model as the single source of truth. And we do have, just copy this. We do have events. So just say events flowing from app, from the UI up towards the view model. So with this kind of pattern, so we get to make sure that data flows correctly. And with the view model as the single source of truth, we get to have everything in one place. Now, in our movie application, so I'm just going to use this. What we're going to do is we've already fixed the dependencies. So our first part will be designing the DTO, so the data transfer objects. So these are the responses we expect from our JSON. So what we're going to do here is define how everything is connected within our movie application. So in the first place, we would want to see our movie. We want to have our movie DTO, and we would also want to have our movie response DTO. So with this will sit under the data class. So we will have them as let me just add a text here. Text. So this will be in terms of packages. So we would want to have this under data remote DTO. So I'm just going to expand this. Yes. So once we have this here, we would want to have our mapper. But before we have the mapper, so I'm just going to duplicate this and bring it here. So this will work together. So we would want first one to define our model. So that will fall under our package called, let's put it here. So we will put it under the domain and then the model. So this will be our package that will hold our data. So between the DTO and the map and the model. So remember, we are sending data through the internet. We expect that we receive the same naming convention, but sometimes that won't be the case. Now, if within our movie we have, let's say, we do have ID, we do have title, and we do have description. So within our DTO, so the responses from the JSON file might use ID, yes, but for the title, it might use something different. So maybe, or maybe the description. So it might say maybe overview. So we would want to map this overview directly to description. And that would be the work of the mapper. So the mapper will actually do that. So just link that and then link this guy here. So this will be our communication structure between the domain, the DTO, and the mapper. Now, so once we've completed this, so the mapper can sit on the data layer. So we'll just leave the mapper to sit on the data layer. So the domain will be standalone. So that will sit there alone. Now, once we're done with this, we would want to create our, so I'll just move this one here. So we would want to create our networking client. So maybe something, say movie network client. Now, what will happen here is we would want to tell our application that the serialization, that will be the JSON. So this is where we include the content negotiation. That within this, we want to have a handshake between the data being received and the data in our application through the serialization process. We can also break this down here. So given that we do have our base URL, so we can have our base URL. We also add our API key and maybe the image base key, the image link for that. So everything will sit under this. Now, once we've done with this, we would want to set, we can directly go to now setting our API service class. So within this API, we would want to create the methods that will be used to fetch the application. So we would want to add another one here. So let's say this will be our movie API service. So we're going to say movie API service. Now, this movie API service, this will contain our HTTP client. So with this HTTP client, we are going to create a method called get movies or get popular movies. Get popular movies. So this function will help us using the get method of the HTTP client. It will help us get the list of the movies. Of course, we would want to pass in our parameter, which would be the API key, and of course, set the body for that. So once we've done with this, so remember, this the API service will sit under this also. So it will sit under the data. So I'm just going to paste it here, but it won't be now under DTO. So it will just be data remote, or even we can just leave it as under the package of data. So I'm just going to put this one as our package here. So this is the package. So this one for here. So this one is an independent package. So if we go here, so this one will be our network. So I'm trying to follow the MVVM architecture. So this one will be our network layer. Now from here, we would want to create a method. We would want to get this message or get something or get we want to implement the get here using the repository. So the next thing here will be our repository layer. So I'm just gonna push this back here, just push this one here. So we are here now at the repository layer. So repository can sit under the domain. So because if you look at the repository, the return type for repository is usually your domain. So this one can sit your object, sorry. So this one can sit here. Yes, under the domain. So within the repository, we would want to create just a suspend function called get movies or get popular. So we can just say get popular movies. So remember, this is an interface and it doesn't implement anything for now. So we were going to create an implementation layer for this. Now, for the repository implementation, it's going to sit back here under the data. So what we're going to do is to create one and move it. Sorry. Yes, I want to put it here. So this one will sit under, just copy that. This one will sit under data, under the data layer. So you can see it's not under the data layer. Now, so this one will be our repository implementation. And remember, our repository implementation, we're going to inject our API service as a parameter. So we're going to have our API service, which this will be an implementation of the repository layer. So remember, we are extending, we are implementing the repository. So we need to implement this get popular movies inside here. And because we're extending that, so we're going to say, we are going to get an implementation of get popular movies. Yes. So that is it. So once we're done with the repository, the repository implementation layer, we can now proceed to other methods. So again, just a quick overview. So we're starting off with the DTO and the response. We move to the movie, that will be our domain, and have a mapper that can link these two, that says, hey, we want to map to our DTO or we want to map to our domain. So from there, we are creating our network layer where we get to define all this. Then we're going to create the API service. We go to the repository. Remember, we are creating an implementation of the repository layer. And now we would want to go to the view model where, remember we said in the unidirectional data flow layer, state flows from up down. So that is from the view model to the UI. And from the UI, events flow up to the view model. So this is where we now come to create our view model. So this will be our movie view model. Now, in our movie view model, our parameter here will be the repository, which now has the methods will be this guy here, this repository here, which has a method called get, which we will be using that. But before then, once you've instantiated, of course, you will have this as your parameter. And, as your parameter. And once you're there, so the first thing you would want to do is to maybe create a state flow. So our state flow for maybe the so to make it cleaner, so we can create a state flow of our different kind of UI states. So we can have movie UI state. So with this kind of movie UI state, so we're going to have maybe a loading state, we're going to have a success, and we're going to have maybe an error. So for this error, we can allow it to take a string so that we can get to log the exact error. And for success, we can have it take in a list of our movie objects. Yes, our movie objects. So that this state actually should point back here. How is this done? Okay, whatever. So this state we're going to switch our UIs based on the state here and update our view model. So once we have the view model, we've instantiated the state flow on this. So we're going to create we're going to launch a coroutine using the view model scope to get to maybe use a try catch just to get this kind of movies and then update that as collect it as a state in the UI. Now from here, so from the view model, we will have our UI. So I'm going to just create a movie screen here. So we're just going to say movie screen. So remember, we mentioned about using coin for our dependency injection. So that's what we're going to do next. So make sure that you've used your movie view model. So movie view model and a default DI of coin view model. So once you've done with this, so we're going to collect to observe state. So we're going to create a UI state object that will help us reference the UI state within the view model. So once you've created this, from this, you can now have the build the composable where you can maybe create a card, use the lazy column to iterate through this. The other thing we would want to do here is maybe once you've done with the screen, so the next thing would be let's say you want to implement DI, so our dependency injection. So remember, we're going to create single instance of the API service, API service. So API service. We are also going to have another single instance of the repository, which remember takes in the repo implementation. We are also going to inject our DI, create our DI of the view model, and finally our HTTP, then our network factory. So our network factory. On the final part, sorry, and the final part will now be let me just expand this. Navigation. So from the UI, so we would want to create navigation. So this one can call them app navigation. So remember, within our app navigation, we would want to create routes, given that we're using not routes but objects, serializable objects. So we would want to create a serializable object. So maybe you can, because we're just using home screen, so this should be serializable. And in our navigation graph, our navigation, our main navigation, so where we would want to instantiate our nav controller and have our start destination as now home. And then we're going to create now the composables where we're going to navigate to our screen, which would now be home. Before we forget, we have something. So just on the network bit, so we remember to add manifest, the network on your manifest. And yes, I think we are ready to now start doing our implementation. We had created this package already. So under the movie, so I'm going to create another package so called a model. So we can either create directly the package called model or then just directly create it as a data class. So I'm just going to create file, so called data class. So my package will be domain, or maybe the model, how you'd want to name it. So I'm just going domain dot movie. Of course, I don't want to add them to Git for now. Why is it complaining? Okay, so we're going to have at least an ID for the movie. So well, ID. Let's get let's have it as a default of 0. Our type would be an integer. We're going to have another one called the movie title, so title of type string. We're also going to have okay, don't like this. I want to disable them. So let's just duplicate this. So we are going to have overview of the movie. We are going to have maybe the poster URL. So once we've defined, just going to align this. So once we've defined our model, so we would want to go and create our DTO. So I'm going to go to this one here. So create DTO. So we're just going to create another package called data.remote. So under the remote, we would want to have our new data class called movie DTO. So just don't ask cancel. We just need to refactor this to refactor rename so that it looks a little bit cleaner. DTO. So so remember the DTO must reflect the name from the JSON response. So you can check that on the movie documentation. So we're going to have our ID of type integer. Okay, let's just I'm going to duplicate this. So we're going to have our title of type string. We're also going to have overview of type string. We're also going to have our poster underscore URL. So I think that is how it's named. So I'm just going to remove this. And this one should also be of the string. We can make this nullable. Actually, from the JSON response, it should be poster underscore path. Yes. Now, the next thing would be to create a response from this. Just going to copy this and paste it here. So I'm just going to call it movie response. DTO. And in this movie response DTO, we are returning, we're only taking in movie response. So you can say movies, just say movies of type. So this is going to be a list of movie DTO as explained earlier on. Or let's just name it result so that if in case we have another variable, so we would want we don't want to create conflicts. Now remember this has to be serialized, so it should be serializable. Also the same thing for DTO should be serializable. So we are done with the remote data. Now we can create another package for map. Okay, let's just do it anyway. This is a class. So I'm just going to say mapper dot movie mapper. Yeah, it's going to be just another file. Okay, where is it now? Okay, let's just delete this. Create a new package mapper, and then create another new Java class. So we're just going to call it movie mapper. So so for this one, we only want to create a function to map data to the domain layer. So we're gonna say function movie DTO. So let's just make sure yes, we are on the right package .2 domain. So the return type of this will now be the movie. So remember we are returning this, and if you hover the mouse here, so it's expecting all this to be mapped to this. So we're going to say return the movie in brackets, and then we want to map ID equal to our ID. So that's not different. We want to map our title equal to title. We would want to map our overview same as the overview from the DTO, and then we would want to map our path. Actually, it's our path URL, poster URL. Sorry, poster URL. Actually, it's poster URL to our poster path. So this one could be nullable. I think that's the issue. So it's saying this one here is nullable. So what we're going to do here is say our poster URL should also be nullable. So if you come back here, no, that works. But we can see let's given it's nullable, yes. So we're gonna say our base, our image actually, yes. How did we name it? Our base. So I want to concatenate this. So base image. Let me just check how we named it. Okay. We need to so we need to create our network so that we can pass in our URI. So I don't know why I thought we'd already done that. So under our movie, so let's create new go to new package. So new package, call it network. So under the network, so we want to create a new class, just call it so we need to create our base where we keep our constants. So let's say network constants. Now in this network constants class, actually let's just make it an object. So object network constants. Then I'm just going to bring in this here. Yes. So our base URL, which is already on our Git, and then API key, you can just use any. Make sure you go to your site and then get them once you've logged in. Then our image base. So this is the one that I wanted us to use here in our mapper. So for this, we want to map our image and make sure that it's nullable. So we're gonna say image base, image. How did we name it? Image underscore base. Yes. Just do this dot. Just import this from this. Yes. Dot constants. Good. So we're going to say image and then include the current string concatenation here. So that is it for our domain, our mapper. So the next thing would be creating our API service. So after data, so we can capture again. So we're going to create our movie API service. So this one is a class, so which will take in our HTTP client. So we need to do a val here. So we're in value here. Now this function or this class would rather get us. So this is where we connect our base URL, passing the API key and everything else. So we're going to create a suspend function because we have to wait for these results. So we never know when this kind of result is coming in. So we're going to say get popular movies. Now, this will return, given that we are still within the network, we always have to make sure that we are returning the DTOs. So this one will return a movie, a list of movie DTOs. So make sure that we're using the API one. And then we can actually create a variable that will hold this kind of response. So response. And this will be of type movie response from the API package. So which will now be our HTTP clients dot. So you can see, sorry about this. Client, I don't know if why it is auto completing this dot guess. So yes, this one. Then this will now be our base URL. So we will say our base URL sits in the network constants dot base URL. Then we're going to include in the movie and popular. So this now will be the complete URL. And then we will come here and say, or the other thing is we need to set our API key. So we're going to pass in a parameter. Our key value identifier here is API underscore key. And our value will come from the network constant dot API key. Sorry about this one. Actually, it's a comma, yes. And then, so once that is done, so we can say dot, we can now set it to dot body now to complete our network. Then we can now return this response and reference the result. So remember, this was just us returning a list. So if you go to this package serialized here, so we're saying the result is a list of movie GTO. Exactly what we are trying to communicate here, that this response is of this type. So that's why we're saying return that inclusive of this base, not the base part, but result type. That's done actually. The next thing could be now we want to move to the repository layer where we get to do the repo and the implementation. So the repo will sit, I prefer the repo to sit on the domain. So I will create an interface. So maybe you can just call it repository dot movie API repository. So I've separated it from this one. So we can just say this one as the model. So we can create another package here and say new, just to separate this. So we can just say model here. And then we will move this movie inside here, just to refactor that, and we will be up and running. So now in our repository, this one will hold only one method, taking nothing, return nothing. So we're just going to say yes, a suspend function, get, just use same name, popular, or get trending movie. So just to make it different, so get trending movies. I don't want to use popular movies because you've already used that method, so it might be confusing to know what you've called. Now, these trending movies will return a list. Now, instead of returning a list of DTO, remember, now we are in the domain package. So we want to return now a list of real movies, the real domain models. So we just come back here and say movie object. So remember, we have the API here. And we are done. Now, given that our repository implementation needs to interact with the remote layer, so which will take in our API service as part of the parameter, we will put it inside the data package. So we're going to create another one here. So we can say create another class. So Java class. So put it under the package of repository dot. We will say movie repo implementation, and that will be a class. So this class will take in now our API service, this one here. So we will say, well, movie API service from the API layer, and this will extend our movie repository, movie repository. So the movie repository from how do you tell which one now? Yes, this one API integration course. So no, actually not the movie DB, but the movie repository. So actually this one here, where is it? This one, let's just copy it here. Movie API repository. So we come and say extends the movie API repository. Yes, exactly, from our API one. Now, if you over your mouse here, so if you over mouse here, it will tell you to implement the methods. So just click in OK. So you can see automatically we have a suspend function, which it's called. So the naming must be the same here. So for you to be able to implement that, so that will be returning a list of movies the way it was. So what we're just trying to do here is we want to map. We want to map here. We want to map this domain. So we want to map our requests to the right domain. So we come here and say, so we just come here and say return movie API service dot get popular movies. Then we can do dot map. Then it's dot to domain. And we are done with the repository layer. So what you're trying to do here is, remember, get popular movies returns a list type of movie DTOs. We don't want DTOs in our UI layer. So what we want is the domain. So that's why we are returning, or we are mapping it back to the domain. Yes, and that is it for the repository. So the next thing will now be, we are done with this. We are done with data. We are done with domain layer. Actually, done with data, done with the networks. So we've done with data where we've add our mapper. The repository layer where we've added movie DTO on the response. We went to create the movie repository implementation, which is here. We've done the API service, which is done. And in the domain, we created our movie here, our model, and then we created the repository layer. And the repository movie function that will actually work with the repo implementation. So the next thing now would be working with the UI. So we're going to create another package. So we've done with the network and everything. So I will create a package called UI, and inside UI. So remember, we said our UI will consolidate of the view model, the UI state, and the screens on the presentation there. So we're going to start with the UI state. So I'm going to create another data class. So we'll call it movies UI state. Now, this movie UI state, so I'm actually going to have it as an object or a cell class. Sorry, cell interface. Let's make it a cell interface. Then inside this cell interface, we're going to have different kind of objects. So the first one will be, we want to have a loading state. The other one will be an error state. And the other one would be our success, where we've returned the list of movies. So given that the loading has nothing to do with a parameters or anything, we're just going to have loading. So loading, which extends movies, movie UI state. The other one will be a data class, which will be success. So let's just have them in lowercase. Loading. And then success, which will also extend our UI state. So this one, we're going to have movies, which will be a list of the movie objects. Yes, from our API here. So, and the last one would be another data class. So maybe let's say an error state. So maybe we experience some errors while fetching our data from the network. We will say message, or let's just call it error message of type string. So this one, just do like this, and we actually done with the UI state. So the next one will be our view model. So we just come here and say movie view model. Yes. So so inside our view model, remember we said we will be relying on the repository layer to help us get the method. So we are just going to say movie repository. So from this DB, from this one, don't know what's this. So just let's just call it repository, and this one will extend the normal view model. So our first step here will be to declare the state flow we're using. So I'm just going to create a quick one here. So private, actually let's make it private. Well, UI state. This one will be of type mutable state flow. And this one will take in our movie UI states. And actually not here, actually this way. Yeah, sorry. So movie UI state from the API package. And we're going to say, we're going to start with a step of loading. There is, actually it should just be like this. Correct. So the next thing would be creating value that will be used by the UI. So state of type state flow. Which this state flow will be of type movie UI state, which we will say now. We will reference our UI state there. So the next thing would be, of course, we will have an init method to load a function. So let's say maybe load popular movies. So we're just going to create this function here. Actually, not a variable. Create parameter create function. Yes. Okay. Now this function, remember, belongs to the coroutine. So we're going to launch it inside our vmodel scope. So we're going to say vmodel scope dot launch. Given that we are trying, we are never sure that this data will be there. So we can wrap it inside a try catch block. Try catch block. And the first thing we will do here is we would want to get the response and assign it inside a variable. So maybe something like val movies is equal to our repository dot get trending movies. Then we would want to come and update our UI state. So UI state dot value will now be movie UI states. Just to make sure we are coding the right one. Movie UI states dot success. Then we will pass in movies. Now, if we do receive an error, so we will update our UI state dot error. So our UI state dot value would be equal to saying movies UI states. Yes, this one dot error, where we will say now I'm gonna say an error message of exemption. Then we will say here our error dot to string. Yes, just format this. Okay, so if we go here, I think we forgot to include movie UI state. So if we go back here now, the error is gone. Good. Now the next thing will be building the UI. So we are going to create a new composable screen. So maybe we will call it movie screen. Okay, let's just call it movie screen, and that works. So inside here, we want to build a very simple UI. So where we're going to have a list of movies, a title, and an overview. So that will entail building in a row and a column. So we're going to say, we're going to start off with a composable. So we're going to annotate this with a composable just to make, we tell Compose that this is a composable. Create a function called movie screen. And this movie screen, we're going to inject our V model here. So I'm going to say V model, V model. So this will be our V model, and our main instance injection here would be coin view model. Okay, so let's see, but not bad actually. Do like this, and we're good to go. View model injection later. So for now, we want to create another composable which will hold our movie cards. So we will say composable function movie cards, and then here we're going to pass in card. So actually we can do here is we can preview the card here first. So we can have a card here which will hold this card will hold the movie image and the title and the overview. So we can pass those parameters here and say we will have an image here of type string, and then we're going to have our title of type string, and then overview of type string. So So for this, we can just say movie card will contain an image. So for now, that will be string there. We will have a title in the title, and then we will have an overview so that this doesn't complain. So actually what we can just build directly without this preview, because I believe that once you are doing API integration, you should be able to understand how Compose works, and we won't need to preview the view model, because I think we will take more time. So what we can do here is we can continue as we had planned. So we can just say view model. You're gonna say movie view model of type coin view model. Yes. And then inside our card, we're going to have an image. So this card, we're going to say we're going to have a modifier where we want to take that card. We want to have that card to match the entire width. So we can say modifier equal to modifier dot fill max width. Then inside this width, this one, we're going to have an async image. We want to pass our model here. So that will be image URL. Let's call it image URL. So this would be image URL. And then our content description would be our title. And then we would want to have a modifier equal to modifier dot. So let's have the movie height. Let's say first you can just have 100 dp. We will comment modifier dot size. Dot size is 100 dp. So we've done building the image. So the next thing would be the title. So that will be a text, text composable. So yes, text composable, duplicate this. And our text here will be overview. Let's have max line. So max lines of, let's say 4. Here we can say text. Our text here will be title. And our max line here is 1. Now, if we come here, we want to first collect the state from view model. So what we need to do here is we're going to say about movies. You can say by view model dot dot UI state dot collect a state. So I'm going to import this. Yes. And then the next thing would be to inside this column, we want to create another column. So this one will be a lazy column. So we can add a padding here, padding spacing between the screens of 20 dp. And so the next thing here is let's have a lazy column. And this lazy column, so we can space these items vertically. So you can say modifier equal to so actually this one will fill max size without having the padding of 20. You actually can have the padding of 20 and then add the other padding of 20. So what we'll do here is we can do vertical arrangement. So come here and say vertical arrangement equal to arrangement dot space by, let's have 10 dot dp. Now, we can now build our items here. So what we will do here is we will come here and say we have an items. So that should be on, yes, at least. So come here and say, so we have item here. So we can just say movie. So inside this, we can say we are collecting movies here. So we can say movies. Sorry, you can just create this one here. So what you can do is you can say actually let's have it here. So we can just say val movies equal to we can say movies as movie UI state dot success dot movies. So this one will give us the list of movies here. So actually let's wrap the entire thing inside the column. So inside our one statement. So I'm going to say when, And then you can just call this one movies UI state. And then we can come here and say also I'm calling this one movies UI state. So this one will mean as movies. And then you can say movies UI state. So you can say when one statement and one expression. So when UI state, movie UI state, so we'll be switching the movie UI states here. So when movie UI state dot when is movie UI movie UI state dot loading. This is what we want to do. So, no, sorry, movie UI state. So we come here, select this one. Well, so when movie UI state is these dots loading, this is what we want to do. So we can display circular progress indicator. Just say loading. So the next one is when it's movie UI state dot success. This is what we want to do. Actually, this will make more sense when it's here. So place it there. And then when movie UI state dot error, then we want to have a text composable saying error fetching movies. Yes, so this works. Can have an else block. Let's just do nothing. So when it's right, so this one is complaining here. None of the coding is applicable. Oh, this is the problem. So we don't need to pass anything. So we just need to show that it's loading. So once we're here, so we can now move our lazy column here, which will help us fetch this data inside the success block. So we're going to say we can now pass movies here and say we can now pass our movie card API. So this one here, so just copy here and paste it here, movie card. So we will say that our image URL will equal to movie dot post URL. And then our title will be equal to movie dot title. And our overview will be equal to movie dot overview. Just, yeah. So import movie card. Yes. So we are done with our screen. So the next thing could be, so don't mind about these other things. Don't mind about how the UI will look and everything. So if you imported the wrong movie card here. So we just go delete movie card. Where is the movie card? This one here. So just make sure we have the right movie card. Just see, let's just add another name to make it unique. Popular movie card. So you just come here and say, yeah. And then it's complaining here saying, okay, interesting. So is our image URL. So our image URL will be nullable. So the next thing now, once we're done with this, so the next thing would be to close up on navigation. So we can now go and create our navigation package. So just package called navigation. We're going to create a composable called navigation. So we can say movie app navigation. This one is just a composable function. So we can say that composable and then function movie app navigation. So remember, we said our navigation, the first thing would be to do an instance of instantiating the nav controller. So we can come here and say, well, nav controller equal to, remember nav controller. So we can now have our nav host, which will host our entire navigation. So we takes in a parameter. First parameter is nav controller. So you can see nav controller equal to, you can just say, sorry, you can just say nav controller. Actually, I think I put the wrong thing. Can we see and see nav host. So you want to take one start, the one with start destination. So we pass in our nav. This is the problem. Nav controller. So that will be nav controller and our start destination. So we can create our serializable object here of type home. Object home. And then our start screen will now be home. Home from this one. Then we can now have our composable. This composable hours will point to our home. And this one will be our movie screen composable. This movie screen we created here. So that will be movie screen. So go back to our navigation and do this movie screen. Actually, you import the right one. So the movie API. Also make sure you import. Yes, import the nav graph builder. So that is how we build our navigation. So we actually done. So if you don't know more about navigation, you can check out my other previous courses concerning navigations. So we now create our DI. So we're going to create a package, call it DI, dependency injection. Then our class, just the normal file. So we can call it app module. So you can just leave it as app module. So this one, we're going to create a very simple variable here, app module, which will be of type module. Just import this. So you can see that we're importing from the Kotlin DSL. So we can start by injecting our HTTP client. So we can do a single instance of Shingle. So we add our HTTP client here under the network. So that was we actually didn't create our network class. So let's create that now. So new class. We're going to call it movie network client. So actually, you can just make it an object. So you can just say object network client. Then you can create a very simple function. So function, let's call it create, the one that will help us create our network client. So HTTP client, so which will now be a return type of HTTP client of type okay HTTP. Then so our engine is the okay HTTP. So unknown keys to true. Oh, true. Yes. Yes, and we are done with our movie network client. So we can go back to our DI. So we can see our network clients. Actually, how did we name it? Just go back to our client here. So we said it's movie network client. So we come here and say movie network client that create client. So if we go back to here, we said create client. Now the next thing would be our API service. So how did we call our API service? This one here. So movie API service. We come back here and say movie API service, import it, just confirm it's from the API. Then you can actually do and get. The next one would be our view model. So single instance of our movie view model. How did we name it? From the UI, we named it, just take it here, this one. And then go do our DI, do this. So it's also another get. So let's see the movie API. And then so the next thing could be the final will be our repository. So how did we name our repository from the domain? So domain repository, this one here. Yes, movie API repository. So we come here, pass this one. Make sure we've imported the right one, movie correct. And then we're gonna say our movie repository implementation. Then I get actually it's a movie repository implementation, movie repository NPL. So you can also do that. Get here. So I think we are done up to there. So the next thing would be to configure our DI on the main on create. So we're going to create another just at the top. So actually just going to duplicate this. Just say movie main app. Then I'm just going to delete whatever was here. So it would just be as same as saying creating this class here. So just do it main class. So this is an empty main class of the movie app. So this one will extend our application, which we will override on create. And inside on create, so we want to start coin, just start coin. And then our Android context, so we need to pass in the Android context. So this would be this at the main movie app. And then our modules will be these ones here, the one that we add on DI. So how do we rename them? App module. So we come now to the movie main app and say we are using the app module from the movie API. Extending this application needs that. So we actually fully done. So the remaining bit is now to make sure that on manifest, you have included this internet connectivity. So the last thing would be navigation, setting up navigation on the main activity. So just going to comment this and pick our navigation. So which was on this one, movie navigation. So go back to this one and tell Compose this is now our main navigation. Yeah, so we are done. We can now run our application and see what it produces. So you can see it's powering up. It was crashed. So let's see where the error is. Check your modules configuration and add the missing type quantifier. Overview model. So file repository extends view model. So let's look at the DI. So if you go back to our DI dependent injection app module, is it? So just come here and so it's movie model. So just remove this. You can just have it here and say view model of type. Yes, movie get view model. I'm gonna just import. So this one is view model here. Then import it from DSL. Yes. So we can now run our app and see if it will build successfully. So it's launching. Require another rerun. So I'm just going to run it. We have insufficient storage, so I'm just going to remove some of them. Run the app. So our app crashed again. So let's see the new error. What is the error about? Saying about. So I think we forgot to add one more thing. Go on manifests. Just change this to movie main app. Yes. So this one will tell the application that Coin is responsible for running this app. And then run application. So you can see now we have the movies are loading and we do have them. So we can improve on this image. So we can include them in our screen. We can go back to a movie screen. So instead of running them through, so we can go to the movie app. So we can include a row here with, so it's gonna see this one. Then this row will hold a column for the two texts. So we have a row that has an sync image and a column. So if we run our application now, we expect that we have a row and a column. Yes, and we now have our movies. So that is it. So the next episode. So that's it for the API integration. So as you've seen, it's so easy. Just make sure that you've mastered how the data flow, and you will be able to do an end-to-end API integrations. So make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. So see you in the next episode.